Hallo und herzlich willkommen zum Auf die Fresse VWXW Review Podcast in English. I'm Ian Hamilton, joined by Mike Kilby. And Mike, it's been a weird few weeks, I guess, in terms of, football. If you want to go down that road. How's it going?
I don't. You probably do. There we go. I think we had the same conversation about 2 years ago, didn't we? So,
yeah, although I think at that point, it was, let's just say 95th minute winners aren't exactly the best of things to be celebrating when you can't get to Wembley. But yeah, it's a weird end of the season, and yeah, say 2 years ago, boots on the other foot, and hopefully you get back up to where we are now, or at the very least we don't pass you on the way down. But yeah, we've got two direct shows. Well, yeah, but
yeah. Anyway.
Yeah. We let's just say I don't really want to have being a Sunderland becoming a Luton, going back to being a Sunderland. Like I have a very real fear it's going to be if next season goes the way it could. But yeah, we've got two direct shows to talk about from the month of May. Wheel of Wrestling 69 from Papenburg and this past weekend's Fan from Hamburg. Two, I'd say, pretty different shows in terms of need to see. Like obviously the Papenburg show had one pretty big storyline leap, forced on from by injury, and then of course Hamburg. I guess more coming out of it than than actually was there. But we'll start with Papenburg, because our favourite non-Oberhausen venue. We've fantastic lighting, or natural lighting, I guess you would say. Started a little bit late, but you got that lovely gap where the interval you went from being sunset to pitch black for the second half. Absolutely gorgeous venue. Just a shame Papenburg's a pain in the arse to get to for us non-German folk.
Yeah, it was. I think it's. We say it every time, but one of the most sort of visually interesting sort of venues that WXW do run. I don't really know what the sort of the provenance of the building is. I assume it's an old factory of some kind. Probably so much like the Binnenhalle, but.
Yes, I think on the English comms, Met made some mention that used to be a shipbuilding, like a shipbuilding warehouse, I guess.
Yeah.
It's I guess
there's a lot of that around there. Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess build ships, stored, or it was like a workshop kind of thing. Like I believe it is on the riverfront, the venue. So yeah, it's one of those buildings. I guess over here would have gone to rack and ruin. In America, would have been absolutely demolished and rebuilt as something else.
Well,
so
it would have been turned into flats over here. So.
Well, yeah, and pay for the arse for absolutely nothing, especially within a big city. But yeah, so Papenburg, I think they've been running here pretty much annually since, I wouldn't say the pandemic. It's been a pretty recent venue they've started running in. Start off no pre-show match. We did have bit of news coming in with Alex Duke going down with a shoulder injury, and the whole thing going in was, well, there was a non-title Big Bucks match, and they were going to address what was going to happen with the tag titles. That ended up being definitely addressed throughout the show, but we'll get to there when we get there. Opening match, Metahan against Fast Time Mudo. Of course, this was Metahan continuing to build up for his match with Mike DeVecchio, oh dear. That mini winning streak piling up steam, so putting as much as they could into Metahan before the match in Hamburg. Mudo, more than worth his value in this match, but unfortunately, especially for what the match was and where both these guys were headed, it's only ever going to be one result. And yeah, I guess because of that, it did have a tendency to feel almost, I think I put down paint like numbers kind of thing. When you've got a match and you can pretty much tell what the result was going to be. But yeah, it was pretty good for what it was. But again, you did get the sense the Papenburg crowd were not on board with Metahan, at least this particular push.
Yeah, I think I agree with you there. It was a bit paper numbers, a bit of a fine filler, but I think very quietly Mudo is sort of getting out of that rut he's been in for like the last sort of 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
But again, it's difficult when you're against somebody who I don't think is necessarily working at their best in Metahan.
Up next, we had the pre-tape promo, Alex Duke and Norman Harris talking about the injuries. Robin Christopher Forwerk came up with an offer, so we find out more later. Of course, the injury to Alex Duke meant we had a reshuffle to the card, so we had the not newly formed, but the newly named team, M4 Mark Menzer and Tim Kovslovsky, Swole Patrol. I swear there's a team with this name elsewhere in Germany, but I had a look on SL Wrestling, I got confused as Party Patrol. But yeah, it's very entertaining for like an opening match, low card gimmick because I think it's the point where they don't want to keep digging for Y2 cutie stuff, especially if Jacob Crane's staying in Japan. So yeah, they're kind of similar but different, I guess, in terms of at least the feel of the act. Unfortunately, here we're up against Planet Gojira, and you can probably guess what the result is going to be. Both these lads would be peeled off the mat in a few minutes. Again, Planet Gojira, we said from day one they clicked, they had the look straight out the gates. And I guess, after Hamburg, you're probably heading back towards the tag title match, but they did pretty well not just rushing to put the belts on them on day one with, a newly minted act.
Yeah, as I say, and it kind of gives saying sort of about Soul Patrol, like Tim and Mark are both like. I don't think either of them have been wrestling a year, have they? I don't think Tim's been around long either, has he really?
I think Tim, when we looked up, it's like Hamburg and a year with that and M4. It would have been last year's Tag Festival when he first got in the ring, and again that was like a small like a small part in a
you
thing.
Always
So
you always need a team who can take a few losses like this, and there's no harm in these two working in this sort of division, really.
yeah, I mean it's enough kind of thing where like obviously M4's the Academy champion. They do a damn good job of not having the belt on him when he's going to get murdered in short order. But yeah, I think with this kind of thing, what you do want is, you designated pin eaters, because it is very easy to have guys who are there in every single show and go 50-50, and then it's a case of, well, everyone's very much for muchness. And what that does mean is when you get down the other end of this particular arc, when M4 and Tim do get to the point where they are starting to win matches, hey, they mean more because they've not been trading 50-50 wins of every other fucker on the team. So
it's a lost art, isn't it? The squash.
It is something, especially when you watch a lot from certain promotions. I'd rather see an entertaining back and forth squash than a 25-minute match, especially when the result ain't going to be in much doubt. But moving on, we had Jane Neo up against Madison Marley. I think just after this show, they announced Marley is going to. Seedling with the Japanese promotion of all the N's in the name. So yeah, Jane Neo, they've been trying to put a little bit of push behind her. This is only Madison's second match in WXW, so you kind of guessed where this was going, but worth a while they had. But again, WXW, since they got rid of the women's division, when you flat straight up mark match, if this is a women's division match, it's kind of hit and miss what the crowd's going to be like. Even more so when it's two names who, all due respect, are barely on the roster these days. Next up, we had a debutante, and what did you think of Alexander Bellamy? Because this was a name I didn't even know was, even training at the academy. Like,
debut match, wasn't it?
So normally, again, I know they don't do the academy shows as often as they used to. The ye olde graduation ceremony, I guess he would have been. Debutant from the academy has a match on an academy show against the trainer. So back in the day, you had Julian Pace and Walter back then, or Julian Pace and Anil Marek and Robert Dreissker, two pretty familiar ones there. Obviously, we're not doing the academy shows as often. I think we did one in Marl a week or so ago, and then the Wednesday night heat come and goes. So this was the debut match for Alexander Bellamy. No relation to Craig, thankfully. Local lad from Wuppertal, and I will say for match one, I was completely stunned. Like, this is someone I actually did some research afterwards, and I just couldn't believe this was match one. Like, I've seen people who've had months in, a lot of matches, and don't look half as polished, composed as this fella did.
Yeah, for sure. I say there's a lot of. I mean, it was a very very quick match. Didn't even go over 5 minutes really, but it was it was an excellent sort of first showing, and I think it's a testament to his training. Again, I don't really know anything about his background at all. I don't know whether he's sort of a MMA, like is he a mixed martial artist guy, is a martial artist, is he got any sporting background? I don't know, but he does seem to have sort of a lot of good sort of natural fitness, but also he carried himself. He carried himself like somebody who
He got it.
knew how to work. Had some performance sort of chops. I do
Yeah.
find that you do get, especially with performers, not only in wrestling, I think in performers who are fresh out of school, should we say, in the sense of they've just been doing the training, they can almost over emphasize like everything has to be perfect.
Yeah, they do the
And
acting part of things where it's, I'm going to make sure you know to boo me, and they, what's the
well,
saying the kids say? If they emote too much, they flip off the crowd like it's going out of style, that kind of thing.
and it's not because they're doing it as that, but it's like they're taught to do it perfectly. But as say, like there was the imperfection in there, which makes it more appealing to watch, because I think when everything's perfect, it's boring, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought he had a sort of very good sort of carried himself very very well.
And I guess
And
in the mix here,
especially against somebody like Ilya. I mean, Ilya is. I still do consider him sort of inexperienced in my head. He's not inexperienced at all, but um, you know, to carry himself that well against somebody who probably probably about 3 years ago was in a similar position, really. Yeah, very very good performance.
yeah, saying, glossing over, Leo Bloom was the opponent, and yeah, just pulling up his cage match. December 2021 was his debut, which, again, as much as we've seen him on a load of shows, you think he's a lot more experienced than he is. 3 years ain't much. 180 matches cage match has, so you can't get for reps in, but definitely he, Bloom, it was another one of those where as soon as you saw the opponent, it was obvious. Bloom's got the Texas Death match with Manders in a couple of weeks' time, and this one was more, get Alexander Bellamy over, but also Bloom gets workshopping stuff. There's that wacky torture rack into an angle slam that got the win at the end. And yeah, I mean, I think Bellamy, he's going to be one of those names who'll be popping up on the the smaller wheel of wrestling cards, maybe
You'd
popping
hope
up
so.
on the definitely popping like on the like some of the festival weekend stuff, even if it is the I hate the phrase "job it for stars," but I'm getting at, like the name who is going to be then result, but it's going to be a fun time nevertheless.
Well,
Next up,
they didn't insult your intelligence like some
no,
promotions do. Some promotions they insult your intelligence and they say, well, somebody who is in their first, has been wrestling for 6 months can go hold for somebody who's going 3 years and is the number one contender for the title. Doesn't-
yeah,
That's just not feasible. It's not credible at all.
yeah,
And
and
they
it's
never did that,
too
which is good.
that relies too much on anyone can beat anybody on their day thing, which
Which is not
does
true.
work, but not in every single match.
Exactly.
And next up, Who against Nick Schreier. Unfortunately, Nick Schreier is very much the whipping boy of the WXW roster this year in terms of his win-loss record. Again, this is another solid one. This was originally Schreier against Anil Marek. Again, this ended up being a rematch from Leipzig a few weeks prior. Decent enough, but again, both guys' trajectory, you kind of knew, who was going to be one, who's going to be getting the win. I did feel a little bit this was getting a bit too rough on the edges, and yeah, it's kind of thing they are still kind of playing on who are still not being fully recovered from Carat. And at the
Yeah.
same time, Nick Schreier is what's that phrase? A puppy with big paws and getting more and more eager to get that first major win. Because yeah, he's at the point now where he really can't buy a win, and at some point, the fans, are still behind him, but you are really getting that limit where, at some point someone's got to give. And I'm not saying the crowd's going to turn on him, but you do hit a point where if you get beaten like a drum for say a year straight, it's going to be a lot harder to actually make them a thing. If you do want to pull
Or
that
then
trigger.
you run the trial series, don't you? Which is a common trope.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
I mean, it worked with Judge Dragon to a point.
Well, until yeah.
until Tim Thatcher anyway. Next up, we had the shotgun title. This was the second half, so we're in pitch black inside the Alte Kesselschmiede. Shotgun title, Bobby Guns challenging Hector Invictus. And we've said this before, Bobby Guns, he's always going to have that mixed reaction, but the side of the crowd that'll boo him because he's a bad guy, and the side of the crowd who don't want to boo him because he's effectively a legend around these parts. Hector, this was first defence of a shotgun belt. Again, this is, I'd say probably best match on the card. And again, I'm saying that like it's a big shock with these two. But it's one of those where, Hector, they're clearly giving decent runs, not going to be a transition. Hey, you've got the belt. They're actually putting stuff behind him. Bobby Guns, still kind of looking for that first big win after, turning on Stephanie May's back before Carat.
Yeah, so it was sort of good first look at act. Well, no, it wasn't his first sort of rep as a champion. Actually, no, it was because he didn't win at Carat, did he? He
No,
won,
I'm going to have to pull this.
He won in the Frankfurt or wherever it was, wasn't it?
Yeah, so it was Fennec won at the Shotgun Bonanza, and then Hector beat him at Frankfurt a couple of weeks later.
Yeah, it seems so. Look, it's about 3 months ago, isn't it? Yeah,
Time flies.
It does. So it was kind of a good first look at him. Yeah, I think this was. Yeah, I kind of agree with you. It was probably the best match on the show. Simply the fact it was just a very, very well worked match, and like these two, they work each other quite a lot. I think in other places, so they do know each other very, very well. And yeah, it was. I thought this was really decent stuff.
Next up, we had the tag match. So originally was Big Bucks against Palawan, Nemo and Yokai. It ended up being Anil Marek. He's now filling in for Alex Duke while he's recovering. And they're doing this. Well, we haven't got an official name, but they're calling it a joint venture. That's the tagline we're giving it. So I guess we're doing this as a stopgap for now. So High Perform Limited, still have a champion by default. The sweetest two words in the English language, as Homer J. Simpson would say. But again, Yokai and Nima, again, they're pretty much tackling dummies here. This was always going to go this way, I suppose. And yeah, I think it's one of those, Nima and Yokai, Nima in particular, big fan of, but so far WXW just doesn't seem to be working as a tandem for them.
I think Nima worked. Nima's sort of got a half a chance of doing very well, but I just don't see anything really landing for Yokai because they've just never ever established what he is and what he's all about.
Yeah, it's a guy with wacky face paint and the use of a Tengu mask, I think it was. It just came out. No, at least with Nima, okay, you could say it's a straight laced act, but that's got more chance of getting over than he's wacky guy with. I think we said over count, maybe problematic depending on your mindset, the way it's portrayed. But yeah, Nima, said when I've seen him in GWF in Project Nova as well, I've really liked. But yeah, this team, it feels like it's we've already got the Swole Patrol, and I feel like they're going to have to do something with those two if they're also going to keep Swole Patrol in as the jobber tag team, if you want to use that phrase. I guess we'll see. I mean, we haven't exactly got that strong a tag division right now, so we'll see what they do to retool. But certainly the trajectory of those two isn't a promising one, shall we say. Let's finish up the main event, the rematch from 16 Carat Gold, Axel Tisser against Lawrence Roman. Again, this was fine, but it ended with a bit of a screwy finish with Fast Time Muda coming out for distraction. He then held Tisha's arm and rope to break a pin at the end. Yeah. Distraction, and then, roll up Tisha wins. Post-match, they went off there pretty hurriedly because we found this out on the WXW site earlier this week. They did a dark match of Lawrence Roman and Nick Schreier beating KXS. Again, didn't make tape, so Papenburg went home happy. Those of us watching at home went home with, I guess, some argy-bargy in the ring, I guess.
Yeah, I think this match was. I think it was a very, very solid main event, and I think it sort of justified its position because it did set up a few things later on for an upcoming sort of shows. I thought these two have really, really good chemistry together. and I think they were a good ending away from creating a bit of magic really in this match, and I think I say it was potentially very good match. It was just kind of snatched away sort of from the jewels of sort of greatness in a way. But yeah, I think despite that, I think it was a very sort of fun watch for me.
Yeah, and again, it's the kind of thing of these real wrestling shows. They're almost like the old feature events, back when we used to have the marquee and feature stuff. Sold enough cards, it's the kind of thing where if you want to catch up, the shotgun title match, main event probably two, I'd say go off your way to see. But really was all kind of, setting in place stuff for Fan a couple of weeks later in Hamburg. And I was going to put this, originally I did these notes was going to be, breaking news, but we've had Fan, so no longer breaking news. But the big story coming in was that Mike DeVecchio was stripped of the European title. So he wrapped up the Champions Carnival for All Japan the week before, revealed to the XW that his knee injury had flared up. I haven't actually seen the Champions Carnival final, but I've been told there was a pretty scary incident where it looked like he had injured his knee in there. So, it's not just my knee's feeling bad, or by the way, ignore that I'm, being touted for a WWE contract. Again, we'll get to that when we get to it. But WXW opted to vacate the belt. They had a mystery opponent in to face Metahan, which we'll get to. But yeah, so we had at least one new champion guaranteed here. But we started off the pre-show match, Hector Invictus beating LSG to retain the shotgun title. Again, this is a fight forever match. I think that by itself meant we were not really expecting a title change. LSG as well, comes in for weekends and short runs like this. Not really expecting to win a belt, especially right now with, when the other titles are kind of up in the air. But yeah, I thought it was a pretty solid pre-show match. LSG did more than enough to make me think, he might cause the upset. But at the end of the day, Hector got his V2 defense and, still shotgun champion. And as we'll get to, probably not going to be on for a couple of months either.
No, it doesn't appear so.
On the main show, we had one of the two mystery matches, or mystery opponents, the Bobby Guns Open Challenge being answered by Kid Lycos, which, yeah, I could have rattled off names as a guess, and I would never have gotten Kid Lycos as a name they were going to bring in for this, I'll be honest.
Yeah, well, who was Bobby Guns meant to be facing this show?
It was always advertised as an open challenge.
It was always an open challenge. Yeah. Okay, I kind of I saw that there was the replacement coming up, but I wasn't sure if that was also the same with this one.
I think what the deal was, and commentary kind of touched on this. So bear in mind, back in the old days, Bobby Guns went for ages, unbeaten in Hamburg. He had the spoof of the Hamburg. Yeah, he had the spoof of the Hamburg. We've been in the Bundesliga clock, which they're now going to reset. But he hasn't won since before the pandemic. Like at least in a singles match. So if you think Bobby Guns in this decade, and my God, this is scary to say, we're talking about the 2020s versus the 2010s, but yeah, half through this decade, this was his first singles win in Hamburg. When you consider how invincible he was in the Marktal, 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago. But I thought again this was decent. A lot more of a crowd than I was expecting. Got Lycos, or at least were familiar with him. But again, it's a whole thing of, at this point, this was maybe one where it wasn't a knife edge. Bobby Guns came out with the Werder Bremen shirt. Hey, you can re-spark that rivalry now that Hamburg's back in the Bundesliga. But yeah, I think it was one of those. It was a good exhibition match, but being realistic, I don't think you're going to get Kid Lycos having a run in WXW. Him beating Bobby Guns wouldn't surprise me. I don't think that would have been parlayed into a long run, whereas Bobby Guns winning, is going to lead to other things.
Yeah, exactly. 100% right.
Next up, we had Jane Nero against Stephanie Mays. So, of course, Stephanie Mays recently relocated to Hamburg for the hometown Pops, if you believe Robin Christopher work on the English feed. Again, this was fine, a bit on the short side, but again, as we keep saying, without women's division or without women's championship, a lot of these matches just seem to be
very rudderless, isn't it?
Spinning wheels, I guess. And yes, we had Nita Vaughn as the shotgun champion, but again, look for trajectories. Hector Invictus has the shotgun belt. They're not going back to intergender stuff for the time being. at least the way it's looking. So right now it just seems to be, giving people reps until something comes up. Again, this was fine, but I thought a lot of this was, big, Stephanie Mace is the big star, Jay Neal's on the come up, and at this point, Jay Neal just isn't getting that big win yet. Next up, Lawrence Roman Nick Schreier against KXS. So this was the fallout from what we had in Papenburg. Again, I thought this is pretty good, but again, we keep saying this for Nick Schreier, and I feel like this is going to be at my the NXT UK, NXT Europe's not going to be anything which we'll touch on. Nick Schreier taking the fall here, but definitely him being in with Roman, with Axman and Mudo. It's probably the best, feud to have him with, in terms of getting repetitions, in terms of getting experience to get him up to that level. But yeah, it's that whole thing of, unfortunately, this particular combination. It's almost like, when Bushi was in a Los Ingobernables Japan match, he was always the guy who thought, oh, he's in a multi-man. Oh, he's getting pinned, isn't he? And that to me, for now, if you've got Nick Schreier in a tag match, unless it's against like a Party Patrol, that to me, unfortunately, is going to be the big red flag, at least, while he's on this particular part of the story. Up next, we had Ahura against Leah Bloom. Of course, Bloom has that Texas Death match against Manders next month. Ahura, of course, was beaten by Manders in the Carat final. And this one completely shocked me because we had Ahura beating Leah Bloom by the skin of his teeth. But this was, pretty much like a makeover. Guess what Bloom's hoping to do next month. Bloom got the skin of his teeth win over Manders in Hamburg early in the year. But this is one of the things really telling you, if Leah Bloom isn't the guy, they definitely got Ahura's for 1B.
Behind. Yeah, they got somebody behind. And so there's a pair in which I would never have sort of placed together probably before the sort of the start of this year. But they've got some really, really good chemistry together, haven't they?
And I think as well, it's that whole thing of it's two, I'll say, relatively fresh single stars. Obviously, who has been around, part of Pretty Bastards, long back, but it's definitely been since he come back from through the pandemic. Really, he's been a singles guy. He had the time on the shelf, and then now he's back. And they're really, since he came back to Carat last year, they've started the the gentle push to the top. We've always said with Ahura, the floor's low, but the ceiling's higher compared to with Maggot, where you got what you got, which was usually fine. For me, it did start a little bit slow, this match, but it did pick up a lot through the second half. But yeah, I think it's one of those where this was designed, I feel, to have you second guess. Like, we were all thinking, Manders is going to lose the belt. He's had a load of defenses in the States, over Mania weekend with the WXW belt. But right now, I would not be stunned, if we have, Bloom lose in a couple of weeks' time, and who is the guy they have win? We got Shortcut for top in August. Is that we have a who do what Maggot did a few years back, and we come through there. But certainly they're doing stuff to make you think, oh, Bloom may not be the guy. We're having two guys ready for that spot, and it's going to be a case of, I like and where you can.
It's for sure ready as well.
Yeah, it's not a case of, oh, well, who's step behind. So, you're not thinking the obvious is Bloom's winning. There's multiple, pick your own adventure stuff you can do, which, hey, I like variety. It's not where it's like A to B to C to D. It's, A to B now, where they're going from here, and that kind of stuff I love in my wrestling. As much as predictable's, fine, when you have me second guess as a fan, that's where, and it's not second guessing for the sake of second guessing. It's second guessing because I generally don't know what the hell they're going to do. At the interval, they announced, of course, they're doing the two shows in Hamburg as part of that 25th anniversary tour of the Grungespan and the Markthal. 3 names of the Hamburg shows were announced. Danny Luna, which I think this will be her WXW debut. Yep. She's part of at least that particular weekend, alongside Shikahiro Irie, back for first time in about a year, and Leon Slater. So, yeah, if you're heading over to Hamburg at the end of the year, got the all-standing Grungespan in St. Pauli, and of course the Mark Thaler right by the train station. So, yeah, well worth making plans for. Second half starting with a tag title defense, of course the quote-unquote joint venture, Norman House and Anil Marek, against Michael Oak and Igel Blanc.
I thought this was really good.
Yeah, I mean,
I,
for reasons,
I bit on so many close
yes.
call pins.
I
Yeah,
mean, what I will say is, I mean, this second half of the show, I was a little bit in the days. If you know, you know. But yeah, a lot of this was kind of was really dragged me out of the funk I was in. It was I do think it's another one of those where it's like, do I really buy the title change? Because obviously going the build was big bucks doing the whole thing. We've cleaned the division out. Now you're having to put randoms together to take us on. But yeah, the finish, if anything, kind of brought down a bit was the
yeah,
Forward getting involved, distracting the referee, low blow while nobody was looking, and Lamar getting the win. And yeah, I mean, I don't think the Marek Harris team's got long for the world just because obviously, Alex Duke's going to be on the shelf and back at some point. But again, this does speak to, the WXW tag division. Somehow they went from being overly stocked to now it's the same couple of teams. So at least in terms of regulars.
yeah. Yeah, I think, and also it does appear that they will be back as a pairing as well, Oku and Blanc.
Yeah, was it broken rules were announced against Roman and Nick Schreier. So, hey, big shining red light there for who's taking the fall there. Prove me wrong. But next up, we had the vacant European title decided. Metahan out first and a returning Marius Alani. I know we've
Yeah,
been
super.
campaigning for it was Fan last year, although Fan wasn't in May last year. But Fan last year he came in as an injury replacement for Igor Blanc. Was in as an injury replacement here, and the substitute won the European title. And I completely missed the first true Grand Slam champion in WXW.
Well, yeah. Well, in fairness, we missed it because it wasn't. It wasn't on the card for him to win. I
Well,
suppose.
no, it was more. I
Yeah,
swear, a while back when the European belt came, we did the whole thing of, who's realistically got the shot of being a Grand Slam champion. I think was it
yeah.
Ilya Dragunov, but obviously he's with
Tisha got
elsewhere.
the
Axman, I think
Dreissker.
Dreissker. Then after that, you're looking at guys.
Jörn
Lawrence Roman,
Simmons.
obviously. But
No,
apart
Jörn's not
from
tag champ.
yeah, Lawrence Roman's won a lot for he cleaned that all out in a year. So, but apart from that, you're looking at guys who either unfortunately aren't with us anymore, like Absolute Andy would have been one short, and otherwise guys who have at least one of the belt on top of European belt with. So, yeah, completely out left field. As for match, I know these two. So. These two had a match about a week earlier for the GWF as on their
In
one of
Hamburg
the
as well, I believe.
yeah, like none of those made tape, which again I don't know how well those shows did, but the fact results came out and it wasn't no same day tells me that someone was there with results feeding to cage match. But yeah, again this one I feel like we're beating a dead horse here. Like Metahan, it just isn't landing. And like this one went, thick end of 20 minutes was your Pro special, Don't You Dare, Andy. But, this is one of those where just, the crowd, popped huge for Marius. Then the match happened and it went deep into volume and came back up at the end. I don't know, is it we had this, in Papenburg with Methan against Mudo. We had that speech that carried away, Methan said he got fired, he lost his passion, he's getting back. I genuinely don't know what it is. Like, is it the match structure? Is it the crowd don't buy him? Like, the crowd were there when he hit the heights as Lucky Kid, and now they don't buy him because we've been through the journey that's followed. But some of that hand just doesn't work. And the fact that they brought in Marius and put a belt on him, and I guess the next step, they aren't going back to this pairing straight away, kind of tells me this Metahan run, they've recognised maybe wasn't doing it.
Yeah, and like what he sort of said on the shotgun vlog was he was like, "Oh, I sort of was like, oh, I'm happy that it was to Alani that I lost or something." It was like it was such a weird sort of angle.
Yeah, I just don't mean, again, a lot of it could be lost in translation, but a lot of what's going on with Metahan, I don't want to say it's missing something. Just from my eyes, he went away, he came back, it didn't work out, and he's come back again. It just feels like whatever impetus that was there 7 years ago, and I hate, we're talking about 7 years ago, but it feels like it's not that long ago, but fuck it is. But the impetus that was there doesn't exist anymore. and it's that whole, you've lost your mojo, you're trying to get it back. And it's almost sad because every time you get these runs where they do put something behind them and it just doesn't work out, it's more stock that's lost for another time you want to do this. Because I do believe there is something in, a big Metahan run, but not as Metahan. Now, I don't know if you can go back to look at kids, that whole thing of, we keep saying, in Rev Pro, you've got the youngest in charge, Leon Slate, but at some point, you've got to get rid of that nickname because you're not young anymore.
Metahan has never been over in WXW as Metahan. Because
The only time I would have said...
He debuted to complete, idiocy. It disappeared for... He then disappeared for the entire time, and then he came back, after sort of NXT UK ended, and he wasn't over then. So
I'd have argued maybe, yes, the ASL run maybe, but again, obviously COVID, put the kibosh on that. The original reveal was Carat 2020.
Yeah, well, the reveal was like I said, the reveal was dead on arrival, but in front of fans, I think if Azel was ever over in
WWE. No, because I think all the iTouch and Abdul stuff was all close set stuff, and then maybe when we had 20 fans in the Steffi, but yeah, we'll see where it goes. I mean, yeah, I don't think Metahan is going away, but I think the fact that they didn't complete the story here kind of tells you that maybe they suspected the better story was bringing someone back in who hasn't been a regular for many a year, but we'll see how that mops out. Main event was ECW.
The other thing was, sorry to just go back on Marasani, is he is a veteran, and he is somebody who is known to the fans, but also he's not wrestled really anybody on this in the roster now, because if you look at he's not wrestled Roman in recent years. Anil Marek, Norman Harris, no. Bobby Guns is not done for a good few years, so they could do that again. Ahura, I don't think he's done.
So, I mean, if you're looking, so
Nick Schreier, Ilya Blue,
if you count into WXW, I mean,
he's wrestled them elsewhere, but in terms of WXW fresh matches, there's 5 or 6 or 7 fresh matches there.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking. So we had Ahura, that was at Farners for late fill-in for Aigle Blanc, but that was one which we raved about last year. Before that, is again another injury fill-in at Carat 2022. Then before that, 2021. So you're looking at an entirely new generation. When Marius was the last regular, you're looking at Karen Ra when he was having a run.
Members,
Yeah, and again, God, imagine that.
Tom Schreier, there's people who have never worked him, or have never worked him in WXW at least in the last.
And if you do go back, to say, Peach Tahani, they had a match, but that was deep in the COVID era. That's two completely different, certainly very different Peach Tahani there. I mean, you look at the names he did face, a lot from now either aren't with WXW or very much, not the same guy they were. So, yeah, obviously we do know the next title defense for Marius. We'll get onto that, but certainly if he's looking to be around for decentish time, the tank has been refilled, so to speak, and plenty of fresh opponents. On to the main event, ECW rules. Robert Dreissker with the Bam Bam Bigelow inspired T-shirt against Masato Tanaka. Tanaka had the Sabu chair, and this was absolutely glorious, just full of plunder. This was, we keep saying, Robert Dreisker's excels at as these, the weapon matches, for walk and brawls, whatever you want to call them. And against Masato Tanaka, this is what people would have paid to see, what they would have expected.
Yeah, and I know that Dreisker's kind of this head that takes a lot of pride in that match. It's one of the highlights of the career.
Yeah.
As a sort of a ECW Sabu tribute sort of match, I think it's excellent. As a sort of a send off for Masato Tanaka from Germany as well, I think it was sort of very sort of wonderful. It was worthy of the venue, should we say?
Yeah, they did kind of hint on Commonwealth's farewell, but then there was the whole, well, it might have been. So I don't know if it was. They didn't officially want to save it because, let's be frank, in wrestling, people
Yeah,
never retire.
yeah.
Um,
Actually, Masato Tanaka.
yeah, but yeah, so this one, exactly what you expect. A finish came with Dreissker having the Sabu chair popped over his head, seat pad going flying, sliding D, there's the win. Didn't have blood, but this is exactly what you expected when you saw ECW rules from these two lads. Absolutely perfect, and it's like I said in the report, wrestling's the kind of thing you watch to just get away from day-to-day life, and this damn sure worked as a match, and as a little package in the main event.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I think, I think it's a match that I think will hold up for a long while because it's such a well done sort of tribute to sort of it was a match that was built around Tanaka, and I think Dreissker is the ideal person for that because he probably knows how he wrestles better than anybody else, sort of in terms of like the amount of, at least in Europe, like the amount of tape that he probably has studied with someone like Tanaka is, probably more than anyone can imagine.
So a couple of news bits coming out. Obviously had the shotgun vlogs. Just touch on the main points. So the Anil Marek Norman Harris team, we mentioned that's kind of going to be called a joint venture, but not officially, I guess. Hector mentioned he's taking time off because he's become a father in a couple of months' time. Nick Schreier is trying to get that crisis of confidence because he's losing all the time. And Rob and Christopher Forberg seem to be hinting at some kind of career-ending match for Planet Kojima for the tag titles at some point. They have announced that for coming show without the big stip, but that might well be a direction for Tag Festival at this rate. Or, sorry, Pro Wrestling Grand Prix World Tag Team Tournament to use the proper branding this year. A couple of news bits. Of course, we mentioned about Mike DeVecchio being stripped of the European title. What also came out just over a week or two ago was reports that Mike D. Nigel Blanc apparently getting interest from WWE, along with Cesare, who apparently aim to get them all started by September, which I know is it Fightful and Cultaholic mentioned a bunch of names, as of course that whole tryout thing in March. Is this happening again, Mike? Are we really going to NXT Europe, or is this just signings to unsettle the scene?
I'm still very skeptical NXT Europe will happen in the way that is being sort of proposed. I think if NXT Europe does happen, it will be more of a WWE ID deal. I don't, I don't, I don't see the whole exclusivity locking people up like previously done. I don't see that happening. I mean, I could see them having Zazai's locked up so he can't work Rev Pro. I could see that probably happening. But I don't see the. I mean, I know the inexplicably the performance center still exists. I thought it had been closed down, but
Yeah, they still have a lease for
still,
another couple of years, I heard.
yeah, yeah. So fair enough. That place still exists, but yeah, I'm still skeptical of that. I think you believe it when you see Triple H with the UK belt doing a press conference in the O2 Arena. I believe honestly, if NXT Europe was happening as soon as we suggest it, they suspect it will be. You'll get an announcement probably over the weekend they're doing over All In weekend. Sorry, not All In. It's Forbidden Door weekend when they do the tour in Europe again, don't they? Ahead of SummerSlam or after SummerSlam?
So they're doing Clash in Paris on
Clash
that
in
same
Paris.
weekend, yeah.
So I think if you get an announcement over Clash in Paris, then yeah, fair enough. But I mean, it's yeah, I don't think there's value. There's the value in it, really.
I mean, let's be frank, do you think they've wrestled that tiny belt from Sadiq Khan's hands yet? The one we gave him because we're going to have WrestleMania and then there's that
Even
whole
the UK
thing.
belt, though, did he? I mean, it was
Yeah,
an
oh
accurate
yeah, got
size
us
for
with
some of the
tiny
British wrestlers.
UK belt, yeah. It wasn't
Yeah,
even the main belt. But yeah, I mean, I mean, to me, this is it. And I did some for Voice of Wrestling earlier about this. Like, I don't get, like, we are certainly not in the position we were in 7, 8, 9 years ago. Like, when NXT UK came around, there were the names who everyone had down as the can't misses. You know, your Walter, your Pete Dunne, your Tyler Bates. You know, the 2, 3 names where you thought, yeah, they're definitely going to want them. Today, who are those guys who you think, yes, we're definitely going to want them, and they're going to make stars out of them?
And
Like,
also, and they're not already spoken for.
yeah, I mean, Mike DeVecchio, just because of the size and the agility and that, but at the same point, that's one name. And you look at the way WWE operates today, their pay-per-views are 5 match cards, so spots there at a premium.
Yeah,
Like,
it's
if they
it's
do go down this road, to me, I think whatever it'll be will end up being another YouTube special like Evolve for the 10 people who watch it every week, rather than, hey, you're locked up, you'll get, like you said, the ID contracts. There'll be people who'll be signed. There'll be some, yeah, you can still keep working, but we'll tell you not to work for Rev Pro. And let's be frank, I'd be very much surprised if Andy did book them if he was able to. Just based on, you get burnt, you don't want to go back into a fire kind of
it
thing.
would be a loss for Andy in the sense of I know this is talking about Rev Pro. It would be a loss for Andy if he was unable to use Zazaya, considering he effectively discovered him.
Yeah.
I'm not saying he's
Well, he's
entirely
one brought him
responsible,
into prominence in the main scene.
Rev Pro running in Barcelona effectively took him out of that very, very small bubble. Because there's the number of people who are watching Spanish wrestling is outside of Spain is probably you can count on 2 hands. There's not the I honestly I think that is where you sit. It's gonna WWID I think is about as far as you're gonna go with it.
Yeah.
They might say, right, Mike D or Aigle Blanc, you've got to go and do Evolve this week. Yeah, sure, whatever. You've got to do the Dusty Classic. You and Mike D and Aigle Blanc are going to have to do the Dusty Classic. Sure, okay. Is that even still a thing? I don't know. But
I don't think it has been far, but yeah, it's the whole. You'll be flown in. Like, hell, before the pandemic, they had the UK guys.
Yeah,
but they did that. Pandemic was at Pete Dunne and Matt Riddle. Before the world went to shit.
NXT UK, they only wanted 5 people.
Yeah, and you see now the people who they signed.
Tyler Blake, Trent Seven, Jordan Devlin, and Mark Andrews. That's all they wanted.
Yeah, and the people who they took to feign a roster, they're all slowly finding their way onto those. We wish you the best in your future endeavours. Blah blah blah. Speaking of, Oliver Carter back on the scene very soon, so we'll see. Whether he lands in the Florida indie scene or returns to Europe for a bit,
or he ends up in NXT.
Yeah,
I mean they brought Del Rio back, so.
Yeah,
not saying Carter's any comparison to Del Rio, obviously. Sorry,
well, not in any sense. Much better wrestler in my mind, but
like there's people being passed around like that.
Moving on to stuff close to WXW, a bunch more names announced for the Pro Wrestling Grand Prix. So we have, we already had Dragon Dio and Dragon Kid announced for the tag team tournament portion. Dominic Green and Kevin Koo, Violence is Forever, they were added, along with the Greedy Souls, Brendan White and Danny Jones. I'll say it's 3 teams out of 8 so far. That's a pretty decent array of imports, or at least names not regular in Germany. So, and I think that's during the single elimination tournament. So, you're not guaranteed Dragon Deer, Dragon Kid against Violence is Forever, but we can dream. Femme Fatales, that's again another doing the single elimination format. We have got Layla Hirsch and Sapphire Reed part of the mix there. And the Koenig's Catch Around Robin tournament, first name was announced in the form of Francesco Akira, and I believe last week I actually released a bit more information. So Friday, 30th of May, they're putting the individual show tickets out for this. So at the moment, I think you've got the choice of the entire tournament package, the day tickets. So basically with two Friday shows, with 2 Saturday shows, with 2 Sunday shows. By the time most of you listen to this, you can buy the individual tickets as well. So if you only want to do, say, Saturday night and Sunday lunchtime, you can do that. The format they've announced, so the show one on Friday is two quarterfinals in Pempertal, two quarterfinals in the World Tag Team Tournament, and four Königsklasse block matches. Saturday afternoon show 2 will have the other two quarterfinals in those and two block matches. Show 3 will be the two semi-finals or the semi-finals for the Fempertal Tag Tournament, two more Königsklasse block matches, and then show 4 will be the finals and a bunch of other stuff. So, yeah, we'll have stuff on backbodydrop.com once we know a few more names and matches.
It
But
was also revealed that the Shotgun Champion and the European Champion are in Königsklasse.
yeah, in the actual... Oh, I completely missed that. So
that was revealed on a press release that they posted. So yeah,
I would have missed that because obviously there's no names because it's not the champion at this time. So yeah, definitely gonna. And I think what we've kind of tipped off is based on it because day 3 will just be the Königsklasse finals. You're probably going to see the champions if they don't get through to the final in a match, and I would not be surprised if said titles on the line in the main event if one of those champions got through. But plenty of wrestling to happen, as we love to say. Not going to go through all of this because WrestleMania was the best part of 2 months ago at this point, but yeah, a lot of WXW activity. Manda's doing a shit ton of matches. Won the West Coast Pro tag titles of Thomas Shire. A couple of WXW title defenses with Progress, DDT. And then part of a clusterfuck for GCW as well. Norman Harris, name it popped up out of nowhere when I was going through the Fight TV stuff. He was menacing and I guess not introduced well at a Super Exclusion Mania show. Yeah, one of these names not like the others. Mike DeVecchio did a bunch of stuff. His match with Axeman wasn't going through because Axeman didn't get his visa to America in time, so ended up being a squash against Kuro at Progress, and then being put through doors by Gringo Loco in GCW. Yeah, a whole lot more. Youngblood, they've already resurfaced down under in New Zealand. Of course, they wrapped up in WXW in start of April, I believe. They've popped up on a Farley Dojo Lion's Den show on April 19th. They've done a couple more shows since, including a couple of Tamashii New Japan shows, and apparently going to be part of an upcoming Tamashii Tag Team title tournament, which, if that's all they're doing is Farley Dojo stuff, what the hell knows New Japan thought of a European run? Like, I know the chatter was they were being called back and they were going to be back in New Japan, but so far they just seem to have been doing nothing but this Tamashii and Farley Dojo stuff.
It does make me question whether Bushi and Naito's disappearance has possibly stunted something.
Quite possibly, because I know there was speculation that
they might have been LIJ.
Well, or LIJ was some brand new faction, but again, they're already having to reassign the Shingos, the Hiromus, the guys who are left behind. So yeah, maybe that's delayed things, but yeah, it does make you think, did they not think there's much value in staying in Europe, especially, WXW pretty much down to monthly shows for the next little while. They weren't exactly being used by Rev Pro. Rumours, kicking around there about fallings out there, but yeah, we'll see what comes of it. But at least, if they're working, it's with someone a lot closer aligned with New Japan than your Pro Wrestling Horns of this world. But yeah, we'll see what comes of them. You'd think they'll be back in New Japan at some point sooner rather than later. Wrap up in Japan, the Champions Carnival, of course, had wrapped up a couple of weeks back. Mike DeVecchio pretty much lost out after the WrestleMania run. I think he won one more match. Igel Blanc finished with 3 wins from his tournament. They had a shot together at the All Asia Tag titles, losing to Yuma Anzai and Rising Hayato in Ota City. And I guess if both those guys are being signed by WWE, if speculation is true, that's probably their All Japan career done.
They could go to Noah, I suppose.
Yeah.
With
it depends how. Yeah, was it NXT Japan? Gideon Gray was calling Noah a couple of weeks back.
But anyway, you mentioned about people resurfacing. We've not got it on our notes, but has literally just in the last couple of days been announced that Orshi is returning to pro wrestling in HCW, Hungarian Championship Wrestling. She's going to be facing Millie McKenzie in mid-June. Um, so a return to wrestling for her.
Yeah, I mean, her last match would have been,
She
so
had one
she
sort
had
of
for,
early 2022, I think, or 2023.
yes, yes, so cage match had WXW's farewell, the 22nd anniversary, her, Leah, Paige Tahani beating Amboss, because remember, we were stunned, like, hang on, she's actually pinned Dreissker, now that's it. Um, Match was started 2023 and then lost to Safari Amin in uh, March 23. It's just over 2 years ago. So yeah, she's back. Well, back next month. Be interesting to see whether it stays in HCW or makes way back towards WXW, because I know, we both, well, you send the Voices Discord, but that first run into WXW, there's a lot of untapped potential there, and very much felt like she would have been too big for the women's division, had it remained in her be around. So, see if it's just a, testing the waters kind of thing, or if this blooms into anything else. But certainly, much welcome return, and I
Yeah,
say, see what this turns into.
and yeah, I think I say I don't really know the circumstances. There's speculation around the circumstances. Obviously, she got married, I think, just before or just after her sort of departure from the business. But she's as a talent, I would say she was among sort of the most sort of talented was in Europe, I think, at that point. And if she can return and get somewhere near where she was, that's a very exciting prospect indeed.
Yeah, and again, same match with just 40 odd matches under a belt. So, yeah, we'll see what comes of that. Upcoming for WXW, this doesn't look to be streaming. They're doing the double header with the IWI in Dinkelsbuell, May 31st. What's being announced on the WXW side of things is a bunch of rematches, really. Lawrence Roman, Nick Schreier against KXS, Ahu against Aaliyah Bloom, Jane Neo against Jessie J, and a non-title match of Robert Dreissker, Mark Empire against Harris and Anil Marek. A couple of weeks later, for Turbine Hall in Oberhausen, first time since Carat, we've got Drive of Champions. Got a pretty full card here, so Texas Death Match. Ilya Bloom challenging one called Manders for the Unified World Wrestling title. We have a Who against Leon Slater, Bobby Guns against Metahan. We've got the tag titles being defended this time. Anil Marek, Norman House against Planet Gojira. KXS and Jane Neo against Lawrence Roman, Nick Schreier and Stephanie Mays. Eagle Blanc taking on a returning to WXW Ricky Marvin, which I didn't even know he's doing stuff in Europe, but he had a match in Romania a few weeks back, so that'd be almost like a bucket list thing for Eagle Blanc. And European title, Maris Alani's first defense will be against Zaya, which again, a match I didn't know I wanted to see, but that one should be pretty damn good if there isn't the whole miscommunication stuff. Then July 19th, at the Batch Cup in Frankfurt, Broken Rules mentioned there, Eagle Blanc and Michael Oku against Lawrence Roman, Nick Schreier. Then August 16th, back to the Turbine Hall for Shortcut to the Top. And then after that, it's Pro Wrestling Grand Prix. And yeah, that's really racing around the corner a lot quicker than we were thinking. And WXW pretty much going back to one show a month, so we'll probably go back to a show a month for the time being. But yeah, certainly a lot to get our teeth into as we head towards Pro Wrestling Grand Prix.
Yeah, I think once we get into Shortcut, Shortcut is basically there, isn't it?
Yeah,
So
Shortcut, and then boom, we're in a circle. And I mean, there's going to be a lot more names announced for Pro Wrestling Grand Prix. We've only got three now for the Colonel Catcher, two for Femme Fatale, three for Tag Tournaments. So yeah, a lot more, and I suspect we may get one or two imports, and then it'll be your local names. So yeah, we'll see what we're going to get. I guess just before we close out, just want to send best wishes to Daisuke Sakamoto.
yeah,
Early today's recording, he was a match in Big Japan. Took a tornado DDT and had trouble getting up. Couldn't move. From what I understand, he does have feeling back in his arms, but
yeah, he's conscious and he's aware.
He's conscious. He's aware, but for saying he doesn't, it was like doesn't have can't grip or something like that. So, not as bad as it could have been. I mean, it wasn't one of those where it looked like we see people landing on their heads. It's like, oh my god, it looked ugly. This looked to be a pretty run of the mill move. All seems to be away with these kind of things, but hopefully, it's nothing too serious, and we wish full recovery for Daisuke Sakamoto.
100%. 100%.
Anyway, Mike, whereabouts can we find you on social media?
You can find me on everything as @MikeKilby on Blue Sky, on Twitter, Instagram, anything. Follow me anywhere.
And search me, Ian Wrestling, on Twitter, Blue Sky. Remember to log in. Backbodydrop.com for website, Instagram, and Twitter. Thanks so much for listening, guys. Appreciate your support. It's the first time, subscribe to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, wherever you are listening to us. There'll be a subscribe button right next to there if you haven't clicked already. Now, thanks for listening, and we'll see you next month for Talk from Drive of Champions. Cheers.
Cheers.